We are in the middle of an educational revolution. You've already begun learning the language of the revolutionaries: synchronous and asynchronous learning, blended learning, e-learning. Everywhere you look, there's a new technology and a new term. You wonder if you can avoid it, hoping to wait out the changes. Or maybe you're anxious to join in and run to the forefront, driven by your intuitive understanding that training in a growingly complex world is not just a necessity, but a wise investment. When the dust is cleared, how can you be on the winning side? Our educational revolution began with a simple paradigm shift. Instead of focusing on the instructor, the smart person, educational theory began to focus on the learner and how she or he acquires knowledge. With the creation and wide availability of the internet, this theory, which was slow to take hold in classrooms, found widespread acceptance in user-driven e-learning programs. At the extreme, some would suggest that these types of programs can and will replace more traditional methods. But given the wide variety of learning styles and the limitations of any one approach, integrating or blending the old with the new would appear to offer the most complete educational solution. That sounds great, but what are we integrating? Let's begin to understand our integrated learning system by looking at the oldest learning system, apprenticeship. Most people think of apprenticeship in its earliest form, where a master craftsman or expert taught a trade to a young apprentice. However, variations of this training method are practiced across professions. Think of residencies and internships, or anywhere a learner has to seek out information from the person who holds the knowledge. An apprentice, in many ways, simply follows a smart person around. In its broadest sense, a mentor is this sort of person, and most management and leadership theories today include mentorship as a strategic business practice. These are synchronous methods in which the learner can talk directly to the expert, but apprenticeship can be asynchronous as well. When the smart person isn't around, the smart person's knowledge can be found in reference documentation such as user manuals or ISO 9001 work instructions, or on recordings of the expert performing the task. A repository of these types of content, as well as other job or task-related forms or documents, may be available through a website, a learning management system, a server, or through some other method of content retention and retrieval. The main advantages of the apprenticeship system surround the relationship between master and apprentice. In addition to being a consistent source of knowledge, the master or mentor acts as a model for behaviors, and sometimes even emotions, associated with the tasks being learned. Master status by its nature implies a high standard to which the apprentice aspires, and the instructional materials generated by the master, whether drawings, textbooks, notes taken by the apprentice, or whatever their form, are a necessary and invaluable part of maintaining this standard. On the other hand, the quality of the instruction depends upon this sole source of information, the master. He or she must commit time to the apprenticeship to make it worthwhile. If the master or mentor provides inaccurate or incomplete information, the apprentice adopts an insufficient standard. And, in our information age, documentation, even in the form of videos, can be mismanaged, and digital libraries can become nothing more than holding tanks for unevenly produced materials which have little or no clear relationship to each other. In order for multiple learners to have access to the smart person in a specific setting, classrooms were created. In other words, initially classroom attendance was a means of apprenticeship that increased the number of learners able to listen to the master. As can be seen in a number of large universities, where class size can reach into the hundreds, this ultimately may lead to lectures, or what is potentially a live version of static material, which can defeat the synchronous possibilities inherent in the classroom. To liven up the arena, visuals, which can range from chalkboards or whiteboards to overhead projections or slide presentations to videos, can be added. In classrooms with smaller student numbers, learners can be encouraged to interact in ways that provide them with peer feedback or team them with other learners on projects. In such cases, the instructor becomes more of a facilitator, guiding the learners toward anticipated results while monitoring and steering behaviors. In a similar way, the classroom may become a laboratory, originally a term related to scientific experimentation, but more recently seen as a place where a learner or groups of learners work independently to achieve predefined research-based project goals. Ideally, classrooms are places where learners can receive an instructor's guidance and feedback. Specialized by age group, discipline, or course, Classrooms can provide readily measured subcomponents for a larger learning system while maintaining the flexibility to address the needs of individual learners. They may be the location for developing social behavior, as learners interact in a multitude of ways, only some of which deal directly with the curriculum. A classroom may also be the place where ideas are first expressed verbally, and learners begin to develop an understanding of moving ideas from conception to reality. When classrooms fail learners, the cause is often related to the distance between what instructors believe should be taught and what learners actually need to know. This may be a gap created by the program in which the instructor operates, or the instructor may simply not recognize or care about learner needs. Perhaps the time available is insufficient, and all the needed topics cannot be covered. Or perhaps learners have shifted the responsibility for their education onto the instructor, and needs are left unmet due to a lack of learner motivation. The presence of a teacher may still suggest to many that learning is a passive act. In addition, traditional classrooms are places, and they cost money to create and maintain. Some facilities, and sometimes the chemistry of a student group, may do little to help create a learning environment. E-learning began as a method of enhancing the classroom, initially adding computer activities to the instructor's repertoire, and later providing packaged programs that first augmented and then replaced traditional instructional materials like textbooks, workbooks, and even quizzes. These became fully developed courses that could be delivered without an instructor. And using the internet, curricula have been formed around these courses into full-fledged online educational programs. To supplement the often asynchronous nature of computer courses, learning management systems have achieved widespread use as a means of scheduling learning activities and communicating with students. Additionally, live webinars and virtual classrooms provide learners with the opportunity to speak directly to instructors, though these can often be recorded for later reference. The explosion of e-learning in its many forms speaks to the advantages of computer-related learning systems. With online availability, courses can be accessed anywhere on the globe, and e-universities are growing rapidly. Institutions without some form of remote learning are in danger of becoming obsolete. Unlike a classroom course, an e-learning course is the same for all learners and has the possible advantages of being vetted by multiple experts and tied directly to a learning management system that records results and aids in scheduling. E-learning can also take place whenever the learner chooses and, barring deadlines, at the learner's pace. Quality e-learning materials, however, take time to produce, so there is a significant upfront cost to their development. By themselves, e-learning courses may offer learners no easy means of immediate feedback and no means of expressing ideas. There is also concern that the increasing use of electronic devices as the primary means of communication may be inhibiting social development, and unlike apprentices, learners in an e-learning curriculum may have no human model for behavior when encountering critical or unique situations. A designer who is not the subject matter expert may end up controlling the content, and technical skill rather than learner needs may be a driving force for the course development. Learners are responsible for pushing themselves through the e-learning process, but they may not get the motivation and encouragement by a facilitator that they require. Still in its infancy, with e-learning as its slightly older sibling, is mobile learning. With the proliferation of smartphones and tablet computers and other mobile devices, electronic learning has moved from the computer to the handheld portable device. In fact, some e-learning courses can be taken on either a desk or laptop computer or on a tablet computer, or both. For the most part, however, m-learning relies on its novelty to gain attention in a learning environment. While there are thousands of applications created for mobile devices, only a handful have been developed specific to learning, with the exception of books, which have moved rapidly from their traditional paper format to digital versions. The future will no doubt see more learning apps, as well as games designed to augment courses and information that can be accessed based upon a user's location. QR codes have already provided museums, for example, with a means of giving visitors access to recordings and videos that describe exhibits. GPS positioning could also trigger a location-related response. Learners can generate their own recording of an event for playback later, possibly for assessment. In the workplace, user-generated videos could visually detail a customer's issues, or record a process stage for a quality check. When it comes to learning systems, or ways to find a smart person, the learner is now confronted by a world of possibilities. But what does this mean to those who wish to provide that learner with the best available means of learning? The easy misconception in education is that we've replaced the old with the new. Learning has evolved. We no longer need educators. We need instructional designers. Is this really the evolution of learning? Or is this potentially a learning revolution? We have moved from a world looking for information to one that has too much information. Learners are now surrounded by alternatives and are, or will be soon, in a position to select the means of learning that fits their needs. Our challenge is to create an environment where all the learning systems interact to support the learner's choices. As educators, we now must serve as guides as well as facilitators. And, most importantly, we must create a culture of learning where learners are not only aware of their role, but also understand the stake they have in the process. Learners cannot take part from the periphery, but must sit in the center of an integrated learning environment, encouraged and supported by a mentor, attending short classes where experts provide essential immediate feedback and personal experience, fulfilling e-learning requirements and referencing digital materials, and communicating with other learners via text messages. Creating an integrated learning environment is a straightforward process. First, you need to identify the training methods you're already using and the learning needs you have. Then you'll need to consider the full range of possible additions and changes to those existing methods, as well as the cost of these changes. Remember that quality e-learning materials are not quickly produced, and attempting to shortcut their development generally results in a wasted expense rather than a helpful learning tool. A common error is to replicate existing information in a simple video or a series of slides, but this only increases the data in the repository and does not promote the learning process. Once you understand what you need, design, develop, and implement your plan. Then, begin the ongoing process of evaluation and reevaluation and the reworking of the environment that is the natural outcome of learner results. This integrated learning environment we create needs to be organic, growing and changing as learner needs expand or evolve. Learners, and not the content, must drive the environment. Learner experiences and evaluations promoting constant improvement. From a design perspective, the learning objectives need to be clear and the content to meet them comprehensive. No part of the environment should exist by itself, but a plan should be in place that connects each part with each other, as well as the overall objectives. This should take into account not only the database of information and the technology available, but the human element needed to facilitate and support the learner. Importantly, the environment needs to be welcoming as well as entertaining. Most everyone has pleasurable memories of their favorite learning experience. Few are anxious to relive boring lectures or hours spent in rote memorization. Above all, while technology may be integral to the success of the environment, the focus of learning remains human, and learners need to be aware of their human support and not intimidated by the process or the educational tools in front of them.